Hello and welcome to a new video of Your Polyglot Academy. Today we're continuing our series on how to learn French in 50 days with Esimal, and today we're covering lessons 13 and 14, so let's go. Now firstly we're going to talk about lesson 13, and as always there's going to be a dialogue, so please make sure to listen to it twice, and if you're ready, let's start. Here's the dialogue.
13e leçon.
Un cadeau. Louise, Lucas, venez voir mon cadeau d'anniversaire.
Qu'est-ce que c'est?
Vous ne savez pas? C'est un nouveau téléphone. Il fait absolument tout. Vous pouvez envoyer des messages, commander un repas, payer vos courses, écouter la musique, regarder des vidéos, et vous pouvez même parler à quelqu'un.
Est-ce que je peux l'essayer?
Non, malheureusement, ce n'est pas possible.
Il ne marche pas?
Je ne connais pas le code secret.
13e leçon.
Un cadeau. Louise, Lucas, venez voir mon cadeau d'anniversaire.
Qu'est-ce que c'est?
Vous ne savez pas? C'est un nouveau téléphone. Il fait absolument tout. Vous pouvez envoyer des messages, commander un repas, payer vos courses, écouter la musique, regarder des vidéos, et vous pouvez même parler à quelqu'un.
Est-ce que je peux l'essayer?
Non, malheureusement, ce n'est pas possible.
Il ne marche pas?
Je ne connais pas le code secret.
Did you understand everything? I hope so, or at least most of it. Here's a translation of the dialogue. So it's the 13th lesson, and the title is A Gift. Louise, Lucas, come and see my birthday present. What is it? Don't you know? It's a new phone. It does absolutely everything. You can send messages, order a meal, pay for your shopping, listen to music, watch videos, and you can even speak to someone. Can I try it? No, unfortunately, it's not possible. Isn't it working? I don't know the secret code, or I don't know the passcode. So that was the dialogue. Furthermore, there are some remarks in the dialogue that we need to speak about, so let's also cover them. On the first one, qu'est-ce means what is this or that. But in everyday French, we usually add que c'est, literally that is. So we say qu'est-ce que c'est. Now there is no difference in meaning, and the answer usually starts with c'est, which would mean this is or that is, etc. On the second remark, we know that adjectives usually come after the nouns they qualify. Un téléphone portable, a mobile phone. However, some of them are placed before the noun. That is the case with nouveau, feminine nouvelle, which means new. Now, we will learn more about these exceptions later on. And incidentally, you can see that the French word for a phone with computer functions is un smartphone. On remark number 3, pouvait and peut are respectively the second person plural and the second person singular of the verb pouvoir, which means can or to be able to. Now the first person plural is pouvant, and also notice that the verb which follows pouvoir is in the infinitive. Vous pouvez essayer mon téléphone. You can try my phone. Now on remark number 4, some English verbs that are followed by a preposition, pay for, listen to, look at, etc., are expressed with a single verb in French. So you have écouter la musique, listen to music, payer un repas, to pay for a meal, so you don't need the prepositions there. Now, there are no hard and fast rules on adding these prepositions, so the best way to remember them, or to remember any differences between French and English, is to simply write them down and try to learn them by heart, by practicing them. On remark number 5, marcher means to walk, and it's also the origin of the word march. But the verb is used colloquially in the sense of to function, to work, etc. Cette montre ne marche pas. This watch isn't working. Now the expression ça marche is used idiomatically to indicate that the person being addressed understands or agrees. Du café s'il vous plaît. Ça marche. 2 coffees, please. Coming up. And on the last remark, there are 2 ways of saying I know in French. We say je sais when referring to a fact or some other abstract thing, and je connais for a person or a place. Je connais sa mère, I know his or her mother. Nous ne connaissons pas cette ville, we don't know this town. Il sait beaucoup de choses, he knows many things. Now both verbs are irregular, and the infinitives are savoir and connaître. But don't worry about that because we'll also see them again later on. Now, if you understood most of it, or at least the new vocabulary together with the grammatical explanations, here are the exercises. So, this is exercise number 1.
Exercice 1. Traduisez.
Qu'est-ce que c'est?
C'est mon nouveau téléphone.
Est-ce que je peux parler à Louise, s'il vous plaît?
Malheureusement, ma montre ne marche pas.
Je ne connais pas l'adresse de son bureau.
Vous pouvez l'essayer si vous voulez.
And this is exercise number 2, where you will have to fill in the missing words. And if everything is right so far, let's move in to lesson number 14. Now, we already talked about the fact that every 7th lesson is going to be a recap of what was previously explained in the last ones. So lesson 14 is simply going to be a recap of lessons 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. So let's start. So as I said, c'est la 14e leçon, and every 7th lesson of this course is devoted to revising and explaining in greater detail what you previously learned. Now, we're going to start with the possessive adjectives. There are 4 cases in French. There is a masculine singular case, mon père, my father, feminine singular, ma mère, my mother, and mon frère would be another example for the masculine singular, and ma sœur would be another example for the feminine singular. Now, for the plural, you have mes, and in this case, you would have mes parents, which means my parents, or mes enfants, my children. Votre carte would be if something is yours. So votre carte would be the feminine singular, your card. Votre père would be the masculine singular, and vos parents would be the plural case. If something is ours, for example, our car, then you have notre bureau for the singular case and nos amis for the plural one. And if something is theirs, so their car or their son, then you would say leur adresse or leur maison. So these are 2 examples for the singular case, and for the plural one, you simply add an S. So it's going to be leur photo. And please be careful because this topic is not that easy. I would suggest you to maybe do some exercises or try to write 5 sentences with possessive adjectives so you can kind of learn them by doing. Now, following on, we're going to talk about verbs ending in ER. So an example is aimer, j'aime, il, elle aime, nous aimons, vous aimez, ils, elles aiment. And if the verb is regular, then you're going to have exactly these endings. I, on, et, en. And these are the verbs ending in ER, which we already talked about, and these are also the most important ones. So you have acheter, to buy, commander, to order, demander, to ask, écouter, to listen to, envoyer, to send, essayer, to try, habiter, to live, marcher, to walk or to function, parler, to speak, payer, to pay for, regarder, to look at, rentrer, to return, and téléphoner, to phone. So please make sure to check them out and to also learn how to conjugate the present simple. Now, the past participle, which was briefly mentioned in lesson 9, of verbs ending in ER, is formed by simply dropping the final R of the infinitive and putting an accent on the final E. So for example, for the verb trouver, to find, it would be trouver. So you already know that trouver means found as the past participle. Aimer would become aimer, and pailler would become pailler. And also notice that the pronunciation is very similar. Now, moving on, we're going to cover two very important verbs, faire and pouvoir. Now, faire translates two English verbs, to do and to make. And the conjugation is je fais, il elle fait, nous faisons, vous faites, ils elles font. Here's an example. Qu'est-ce que nous pouvons faire pour vous? What can we do for you? So in this case, faire, faire's meaning is to do. And here's another example of to make. Je fais quelque chose à manger. I'm making something to eat. Now, covering pouvoir. Pouvoir also has more than one meaning, though all of them are connected to the idea of ability and possibility. Can might be one, to be able to, may, etc. So just know that it's always connected to this idea of being able to do something or having the possibility to do something. And the conjugation is je peux, il elle peut, nous pouvons, vous pouvez, ils elles peuvent. Now here are some examples. Est-ce que vous pouvez prendre des cerises au marché s'il vous plaît? Can you get some cherries at the market, please? And in this case, you have vous pouvez, you get, and it's an interrogative sentence. Here's another example with a negative sentence. Vous ne pouvez pas faire ça. You're not allowed to do that. And note also that ne pas is the way to negate a sentence, as we already talked about. Ne is placed before the verb pouvez and pas after that. And now finally, we're going to talk about c'est, which means it is. Now, there are two ways to express it in French. You either say c'est or il est, and there are some differences on that. You use c'est to explain what a thing or who a person is, or if the noun is qualified by an adjective. Here's an example. Qu'est-ce que c'est? C'est une photo de famille. What is it? It's a family photo. So in this case, you're explaining what a thing is. And now here's another example. C'est un bon ami. He's a good friend. So in this case, you're expressing that the noun is qualified by an adjective with c'est. Now the plural of c'est would be ce sont, which means there are, or these are, or they are. And here's an example sentence. Ce sont mes bons amis. They are my good friends. And now finally, we use il est to simply refer to a noun just mentioned or to tell the time. So here's the first example. Où est le beurre? Il est sur la table. Where is the butter? It's on the table. And in this case, by saying il est sur la table, you're referring again to the butter. And here's an example on how to tell the time with il est. So this example would be il est 8h30. It's 8:30. And you simply use il est and then you tell the time. Now, we're talking about adjectives, and as a rule, we form the feminine singular of an adjective by simply adding an e to the masculine, as we already talked about. So for the adjective petit, small, the feminine form would be petite. For fort, strong, would be fort. And it's also very important to remember that some masculine adjectives end in e and do not therefore change. So an example would be un placard vide, an empty cupboard. However, if the masculine ending is in e with an accent, we do add an e. So for example, for the verb occuper, busy, you would have occupé with an e, with an extra e for the feminine form. And the same also applies to fatigué, tired, which would become fatigué. Now finally, masculine adjectives ending in er form in their feminine by replacing the ending with er. So dernier, last, would be dernière. Premier, first, would be première, etc. And now finally, another group of masculine adjectives ending in e replace the x by se in the feminine. So for example, heureux, happy, would become heureuse. Délicieux, delicious, would become délicieuse. And that is the last grammatical explanation you need to know about adjectives. So there are some cases. I would suggest you to at least practice them a little bit, but it's not that important that you learn the singular differences by heart, because by learning the language and also by acquiring new vocabulary, you're going to get used to it. And I'll finally use the review dialogue.
14e leçon.
Dialogue de révision.
Bonjour, qu'est-ce que je peux faire pour vous?
Est-ce que votre père est à la maison aujourd'hui?
Non, il est au bureau toute la journée. Il rentre avant 7 heures normalement. Est-ce que vous avez besoin de son adresse?
Non merci, je la connais.
Voici son cadeau d'anniversaire.
Qu'est-ce que c'est?
C'est un téléphone qui fait absolument tout.
Très bien. Merci beaucoup.
So these are the 10 sentences, and the exercise for today is simply to try to translate this dialogue. So try to do it, and if you would like a feedback or something like that, just write a comment with your solution. I will correct it and I will send you a correction of that. And if you have any questions or whatsoever, don't hesitate to leave a comment or to write me an email. And as always, thanks for watching the video and have a nice day. See you soon.